This is Moneyline Mania with Chaz and the crew.
I hope everybody was listening to the show last week because Chaz and Wes were very, very close to nailing a lot of their parlays. Chazzy boy, what's going on, my friends?
I still say I got it in the back end. The bottom line is my running back threw a touchdown. How does that not count? Otherwise, I'm 4 for 4, and it paid like 11-1. And I knew Mixon was going to have a big day, but I didn't know it was going to be his first pass. And then I said to Vic, I'm telling you, they were so fooled. I bet he's probably not throwing a lot of those. Turned out he had never thrown one ever.
Wes, you were dead on a lot of things that you were saying. How was your weekend with this Super Bowl? Did you eat a lot of food? We all know that you're a chef. Did you spend it with your family? Did you spend it with your friends?
Being in KC, I kind of took a breather. I had a Super Bowl party 2 years in a row. You know, the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. So this was kind of a breather for KC. So, you know, I cooked, and it wasn't smashing beers. It was more of a civilized glass of red wine with the wife, and we smoked some barbecue. We're spoiled around here, but from a financial standpoint, the Super Bowl was great. We called out a handful of props. The biggest one was the +4 on Cincinnati for the game, and jumped on a live opportunity within the game in the first half and took some points, which Cincy very quickly covered. So I would like to get the money. Typically, when I cash something early, I will take half of that winning and go on something that might be a little loftier, but the win is guaranteed. So when we cashed that first half, I took half of that and went back in on Cincy money line. So I was all Bengals going into that last drive because that would have been a real nice payday to get that money line. But either way, I thought the game overall was kind of boring until the last couple minutes.
It was boring, Wes, in terms of big plays and stuff. That had the one big touchdown, but it was not boring in terms of being a good football game. If you like football, it was a good football game.
Oh, yeah. And Aaron Donald was fantastic. In the fourth quarter, he showed you why he's been a dominant force in the league for the last 8 or 9 years and why I think he's going to go down as the greatest defensive player at the defensive line position we've ever seen from Reggie White. And we were talking about Lawrence Taylor. Everybody says that these two guys were just so special. What about Aaron Donald, defensive tackle position?
98 sacks in his career already for a guy that was also a 3-4 end, too, which is very hard to get sacks from.
He took over the game.
Yes.
I mean, he took it over. There's no other way. And somebody said, I thought it was you, Errol, about the MVP kind of got screwed out of, but the bottom line is he took over that game.
Everybody asked me who I thought the MVP was going to be. Aaron Donald was the guy. I thought going into the game, I thought it was Aaron Donald. And to me, if Cooper Kupp didn't have the fourth quarter that he had, it was going to Aaron Donald. Or if Odell Beckham didn't get hurt, it was going to go to Odell Beckham.
I was surprised that it went to Kupp just because typically when you see a quarterback drive and lead the drive that wins, the quarterback normally secures it. I don't think Burrow had an amazing game to where he would have been the MVP, but if he would have driven him down, I think he would have had it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, usually it's right. The third reception, touchdown reception, puts the player that's a receiver right in the thick of things. Otherwise, who threw him the ball?
And that's why I love football and why I love the Super Bowl. Usually, besides the Rams and Patriots, and I remember that game, that was horrific. And the Broncos in Seattle, which was a complete, utter disappointment. It was all Seattle and no Broncos. Arguably one of the best offensive teams we've ever seen. Just completely lay up a lousy goose egg in New York. But usually you expect these games to be very, very close and very, very fun. And last year, Kansas City didn't have their offensive linemen. I knew going into the game it was going to be very, very hard to sell that Kansas City was going to win that game in Tampa. But all in all, I thought was a lot better of a Super Bowl than it was last year. At the end of the game, we wanted to see a team actually go down the field and win the game, and we saw that with the Rams. It was fantastic.
Oh, I would think Stafford. If you didn't like Stafford, I like Stafford. I liked him when he was at Georgia. If you don't like Stafford, look in a mirror.
How do you not like a guy that's carrying a $150 bottle of tequila to the mic during the victory rally?
The Tom Brady tweet was definitely classic, though.
Oh, yes.
Mix in some water.
Yes.
Oh, glad that tequila wasn't avocado, though, like Tom Brady.
How about the lady, the photographer that fell off the stage, broke her back?
Actually an Aztec alumni.
Absolutely. And then obviously Matthew Stafford coming out in the team, some of the players on the team saying that they were going to pay for her medical bills and help her out. That's fantastic when you hear something.
Normally, that's like a rock star thing, right? The lead singers always fall off the stage. They're into the song, and next thing you know, They got a broken leg.
As far as the Super Bowl is concerned, we have no more football. Now the offseason comes. You can obviously make some bets on where some of these players are going, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be doing that because you could do anything on DraftKings and FanDuel. If you think Kevon Thibodeau is going to go to the Giants, well, put your bets on. March Madness is around the corner. You have NBA basketball going on right now and hockey. Where do you guys look to make your bets now that football is over?
Well, personally, we're doing something special for you guys, Wes and I and John. We're going to give you not only the whipped cream, but you're going to get the cherry, too. I spent a couple years at Baskin-Robbins when I was younger, so bear with me because there's nothing prettier. Wes makes some great chef stuff, but a really pretty banana split. It's like a work of art, isn't it? With the 3 mounds and the nuts.
You trying to get me hungry here? Come on, man.
What we're going to do is the teams that you guys are talking about all week, we're going to give you winners for them on Sunday. Saturday night, you listen. Sunday, you make the bets. Actually, they probably should just make the bets right away. Lines move, Wes, overnight.
They do, for sure.
And sometimes you can't get, depending on what we're betting, you can't get the line until Sunday morning. But that's going to be the plan. And so I'm looking. I said, here's what I'm going to do. Wes says, they're college basketball, just like you guys confirmed. And we've been right in St. John's for a while. But I laughed because I looked at the NBA, and they're in the All-Star break, and then I saw what the total was. Did you see what the total was for the All-Star game, Wes?
It was pretty ridiculous.
360 or something.
I'm not surprised.
Don't quote me on the 60, but it was well above 300. People laugh at that, but that's the kind of game where Wes and I will sit there. We decide what we want to bet. So you're either going under or over. You put a little bit on, then you watch the game, and there's going to be a point in the game where you might not only win more than you bet in live action, you might have live action on both the over and the under at the same time in the same game and win them both. And that's kind of what makes us special, I think.
You know what makes me special? Me eating a banana split. If you can make me a banana split, Wes, I'd really enjoy it.
It's the simple things,
My man there.
I do not want to go to Baskin-Robbins for that either.
Yeah, Wes ship you a banana split like you tried to ship the pizza to that guest.
In today's world, your ice cream might be on a barge in New York Harbor.
Yeah, but anyway, so we had talked about St. John's, and they've covered 5 straight, 7 of their last 8. Their total's been bouncing back and forth, so we're going to pay attention to them because next Sunday they're at DePaul. It's funny because this time of year, I believe, and Wes, you and I have talked about this on the show, you got to be careful. You can't just look at the stats because those stats include the entire season, and a team's numbers could be drawn down or up based on the start of the season. They might have been great in the start of the season and now they're not, or they might have stunk at the start of the season and now they're good. I like to look, 8 to 10 games, 2-3 weeks of college basketball is like 6-7 games, somewhere in that range, because I want to bet what they're doing right now. Wes?
I'm with you. And with the college basketball, what's important to understand right now is a lot of these teams, some of the higher ranked teams that know they're going to make it to the dance, some of them don't really care if they're going to be a 2 or a 3 or if they're going to be a 5 or a 6. They just know that they're going to be there. They're not resting starters, but they're certainly not putting their best foot forward. While you got other teams 4th, 5th in the conference, they need to look good. They need to shut down big teams. They need to make a splash in the tournaments. Like Gonzaga, they just need to show up. They could lose the first game of their tournament and they're probably still going to find a way to be a 1. But you look at the Big Ten, Rutgers is a good example. Rutgers needs a couple good showings against these teams they're going to close out the conference play with. They might find themselves in the dance. They're playing Purdue, and Purdue doesn't need the game. Not even a little bit. They don't need it. And so that's an interesting matchup for me.
Nothing was weirder than the Georgetown run last year, though, for the Big East.
Of course.
It's so fun. And you talk about March Madness. You see where all these guys are going to be ranked. All these teams are going to be set up in a draw. And how crazy a number 1 seed could fall out just as quick as the second round. We saw a number 1 team get eliminated for the first time in the first round. So it's slowly but surely, when you get into this tournament, there's no guarantees anymore.
The greatest bet of my life, if it was legal there, would have been me picking that 16 seed, because I actually did get it right at the time. I was hating on Virginia all year that year.
Oh, yeah. You know what? And it's easy to hate on them because they really are a team that wins 62 to 57.
Yes. I always joke their offenses, they're not even top 300 in the nation sometimes.
It was Colgate last year. I think Colgate or Stony Brook, both of those teams. And Ohio State was the team that lost. I know because I said
Oral Roberts. Yeah.
Stony Brook, I think that's the creamery that makes that French vanilla that I use.
Well, at least it's local.
I live right next to Stony Brook. I live literally like 10 minutes away from Stony Brook.
Wes, you also brought up Colgate. Errol and I actually interviewed their coach a couple of years ago. So.
Great guy, too.
Yeah.
Great guy.
The one thing that your listeners won't get Saturdays is they won't get our prep races. So what they're going to have to do is we're going to have to figure out a way, because trust me, over the next till the first Saturday in May, between Wes and I, and not as much John, right? John's not really doing the horses as much. We're going to be betting some horses, and we're going to have some Kentucky Derby futures, and we're going to have some winners out there, but we're going to have to do that probably through social media. We'll do it on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network page.
Oh, I love it. Worldwide Sports Radio Network. That sounds like Vince McMahon right there.
We use on our show, we use that audio intro. I love that thing. Whoever did that did a great job. Was that you, Speedy, or did you get that?
Oh, no, I have a professional do that. Yeah.
That was really well done. It's great. You've heard it, Wes. It's just great. I love it. It's
the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
I think we'll ever beat our debate hour drop, though.
They've never heard it. I might have to give it to them.
The best drop of all time, though.
All right, so when I look at the NHL and I say to myself, okay, if I was going to bet the NHL, what did I do? I don't call up Bears, Wes. I call up Blackhawk, Wes. That's what I do. I got two games, right? I got the Islanders, Montreal, and you mentioned the Islanders not scoring. They don't play real well. And you got the Rangers at Ottawa. Both of these games are Sunday. And I look at the last few games. I've got some opinions since the All-Star break, but I want to throw it to Wes because he's the hockey guy.
I'll talk about the Rangers and the Ottawa matchup. Ottawa, surprisingly, if you look at their big picture, they're one of the worst teams in the league as far as goals allowed. But if you go a little bit closer to recent and you go back, say, 10 or 15 games, they're not allowing a ton of goals at home, other than against really big opponents. They got shut out 2-0 by Pittsburgh and Boston, but that's 2-0, and that's only 2 goals. That's a hard-fought game. That's a goal and an empty netter. They're keeping themselves in these games. The Rangers have one of the healthiest rosters in the league as far as starters go. And when Panarin gets going, there is just something wild about the amount of goals that team scores. But the Rangers are scary because when they lose a game, they do one of two things. They either come back and hang 4+ goals the following week, or they lose a second. That's the pattern with them. They'll either lose 2 in a row, and then on the third, they come back. So when you look at this matchup, I think the safest way to play it is swallow the odds. New York is coming off a loss. They lost a game they should not have lost to Detroit. They're going to Ottawa. Again, Ottawa puts up a tough fight, but I think that the play here is eat the odds. It's -165. You might even catch better than that, but I would say New York is going to get a goal in the first period. Go over 0.5 first period, and then you can feel out the game. If for some reason Ottawa scores first, you're going to find value on the Rangers because they don't believe that the Rangers are going to lose this game.
So just listen to what I wrote down, right? That's what he said, and I'm so proud right now, like I'm a good student, you know? All right, Ottawa, I got the New York Islanders of the Atlantic Division. How's that? Is that good description? They have won 2 of 3.
I got my own thoughts to my team.
3 or less in 8 of 9, and 2 goals or less in 7 of 10. So, yeah, you're definitely not going to be taking the puck line with the favorite in this game, right, Wes?
There's no value in it. It's -1.5. The only puck line you would take is once the puck drops, you take somebody -0.5 a puck for regulation, but that is proven to be a sucker bet in a lot of places.
A game that's tied to the end, they don't play the same. There's a 1-goal difference. They play totally different. And it's because they know what they've got. Some teams relish overtime because that gives them an advantage that they might not get on
Not the Islanders, I'll tell you that. They're one of the worst overtime teams in the NHL right now. And that's why the Islanders don't have the points right now. And that has a lot to do with missing as many games. And they're playing catch-up because I think they're 7 games behind the Rangers, 5 games behind Boston, and all the teams ahead of them. So the Islanders are not out of it, but the way everything is moving, I just can't see the Islanders finding a way into the playoffs unless something crazy happens.
And that's a great point. I'm on the Ottawa game, but I'm not betting Ottawa. I'm betting against Ottawa. And I'm just using Ottawa as an example. The Canadian football, we had 2 of them this year. We're just betting against this team. But those teams don't make the playoffs. We had a couple guys over the years that were great small basketball conference handicappers. But the only team that makes the tournament, well, now there's like 4 or 5 tournaments, but the only team that makes the big tournament is the winner of that conference tournament. And so you don't get to keep betting these teams a lot unless they're in one of those smaller tournaments. when you're betting against a team that stinks, the gravy train runs out playoff time.
Errol, you're right. The Islanders are far out of it. And it's a shame because I enjoyed watching them play in the playoffs last year. They played with a lot of urgency and they were low-scoring games. And they just played with this just gritty defensive approach. Like, I really thought they were just fun to watch. Them and Calgary are very similar, but I agree with what you're saying, Chad. Some of these matchups, some of these teams, like we've been on St. John. I know John has called out Marquette a couple times. Mm-hmm. Wyoming is another one that he's been on.
Big sleeper, Wyoming, yeah.
Teams that you find random little places that they're going to cash for you, and they're not going to make this tournament. And so now you're looking at some of these matchups that we've gotten used to. So the tournament's a totally different thing.